everyone, it's Alice, and I'm here today to introduce you to 15 YA authors from the UK who deserve more love. So I came up with the idea for this video when I was making my underhyped books list, because I realised that the majority of books that I've given really high ratings to that I haven't heard anybody talk about on Booktube are all by UKYA authors. It's something that I'm very passionate about. Oh, thank you, laptop, for doing a little doobity-doo noise. Okay. UKYA is something that I'm really passionate about because being from the UK, it means that those authors normally represent the experiences that I relate to a lot more. And some of the authors in America are doing things very similar to UKYA authors, but they're getting a lot more respect and a lot more acclaim for it. And I just thought it was time to shine a light on some UK authors who are writing amazing books and just need to be hyped up a little bit more. So I hope that you enjoy this list. I've only come up with 15 today, but if you do like it, then please let me know and I can always do a part 2, because there are a few more that I could fit onto here, but they've been spotted on Booktube a couple of times, but these ones I can't remember a single other person talking about. So if you know anybody who loves any of these authors, please recommend me their channels, because I'm always looking for other UKYA fans to follow. And without further ado, let's count down. So the first author I'd like to recommend is Melinda Salisbury. Melinda Salisbury also inspired me to make this video because she made a tweet a few weeks ago basically saying that it was saddening that UKYA authors just don't seem to get anywhere near the amount of mentions that US authors get. Melinda Salisbury, her first trilogy is like fairy tale retellings. I don't know if they're explicitly retellings or if they're just inspired by fairy tales, but they feel very fairy tale-esque. The first is called The Sin Eater's Daughter, and it's about a girl who is the daughter of a sin eater, who is someone that whenever anybody dies, the sin eater is called in to eat their sins. So each food represents a different sin from that person's life, and things get progressive from there. I have only read the first book in that series, but I did love it, and I also loved Hold Back the Tide, which I read earlier in the year because it was part of the UK YA Book Prize shortlist. And this is set in the Scottish Highlands, and it's a horror story, and it's beautiful. And I can't believe that I haven't heard anybody else talking about this, because it blends so many brilliant aspects together. Like, there's mystery elements, there's a really unique fantasy creature that I've never read anything like it before. And it's just a very impactful and powerful story, so I definitely recommend checking Melinda Salisbury out. You might have heard of State of Sorrow, because I have seen a couple of people with it on their shelves, because Fairy Loot did an edition of it, but I haven't heard anybody actually talk about State of Sorrow, so that's going to be my job for the next few months, is to finally finish State of Sorrow and to finish off the Sin Eater's Daughter series as well, because this book has made me fall in love with Melinda Salisbury's writing all over again. The next author I'd like to recommend is Lisa Williamson. So Lisa Williamson is the author of First Day of My Life. I was kindly sent an advanced copy of this by David Fickling Books, so a huge thank you to them for sending this through. I have a bit of a soft spot for this one because half of it's set in Swindon, which is actually where I live. So it was really fun seeing these characters come to my hometown and watching them walk around the town centre and working out where they were going. And that was a lot of fun. But Lisa Williamson, I also really loved her story Paper Avalanche, which is about a girl whose mother is a hoarder, and the girl is settling in at secondary school. She's trying to make new friends, but she doesn't feel comfortable inviting them over because her house is very messy, and she feels like she needs to keep her mother's hoarding a secret just in case the social services get involved and she gets separated from her mother. These are very impactful stories, very issue-based, so this one is about a girl who thinks her best friend might have kidnapped a baby. Lisa Williamson's debut novel was about a boy who comes out as trans. So she writes widely, but she always makes sure to write about topics that are very important, and she researches them very well and has a very beautiful writing style. The next author I'd like to recommend is Kat Clark. Kat Clark, again, very issue-based novels. has written so many that I think I've read about half of them, and I think I've read 5 of her books so far. Undone, which is the one I'm holding at the moment, is about a girl whose best friend commits suicide. I also really loved Entangled and Torn. I read both of those in one sitting at a time when I didn't really read a lot. So Kat Clark's books are very easy to digest. They do suck you in. You get very absorbed in the stories and you fall in love with these characters and you just feel so much for them. I haven't read a lot of her more recent novels. I think I've read her first 4. I don't know why I'm trying to check in the front of this because this was her third one. I know I've read the first 3. Got a feeling I've read her first 4 and then one of her later ones. But she's got a lot of different subjects that she has explored. She's also written a couple of short stories for Barrington Stoke, who are a UK publisher, which their focus is to make more dyslexia friendly and accessible books. So they get UKYA authors to write short stories for them. So I've read a couple of her ones for Barrington Stoke as well. And I definitely think that there's something in a Kat Clark that everybody would love. I just need to finish reading the rest of them. And I'm really surprised I haven't heard her mentioned before because I'm pretty sure she's in the double figures for books now. More people should be talking about her. The next author I'd like to mention is Sarah Barnard. Sarah Barnard is one of my favourite authors. I haven't read her 2 most recent books yet, Destination Anywhere or Fierce Fragile Hearts, but I loved Beautiful Broken Things. A Quiet Kind of Thunder is one of my favourites of all time, and I'm surprised that more people don't still talk about this because it focuses on a love story between a deaf character and a selective mute. So there's a lot of different discussions about communication and those barriers of communication, how that you can overcome them because of love and because of friendship. And I think it's just a really inspiring story because it means that people who may be deaf or may have issues with communicating, it proves that that doesn't necessarily mean that you're an outsider. Like, you just have to find people who are willing to put in the effort for you and learn how to communicate in your way. Sarah Barnard actually won the YA Book Prize a couple of years ago with Goodbye Perfect, which was her 3rd novel, and that was about a student-teacher relationship. That one blew me away as well. That one is one that I think has probably got the most widespread appeal because I know that student-teacher relationships used to be quite a popular subject, but mostly US authors again. I think Sarah Barnard might be the first and possibly only, apart from Jacqueline Wilson. Jacqueline Wilson wrote Love Lessons, but I think recent UKYA authors, Sarah Barnard is the only person who's written a book like that. So if you're interested in books about either communication in like a relationship setting or in student-teacher relationships, then I would recommend both of those. The next author I'd like to recommend is one of my faves, and this is Karen Gregory. I'm just going to say that about all of these. All of these are basically like my top authors. I would die for these authors. I love all of them. Karen Gregory, I don't understand why more people don't love her. Countless, which was her debut novel, was about a girl with anorexia who found out she was pregnant, and it's so heart-wrenching. I cried on the bus because of that story. Skylarks is about a lesbian couple from different sides of the tracks. So one is lower class, one is very rich, and they've not only got the separation between their classes, but they've got this kind of decision to make about whether they're going to come out and be open about their sexuality. And there's very interesting discussions in here about the way that, like, even if your parents are really accepting of your sexuality, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will be accepting of the person that you choose to be in a relationship with, because of that class divide. And I think it's very important for someone to shine a light on that, because in so many books about LGBTQ characters coming out to their family, it's like either they hate the fact that they're LGBTQ plus, or they are so accepting of it and they're like, no, you love who you want to love and I have no problems with it. So I thought it was very interesting that Karen Gregory took that and twisted it in a different way, and showed a different aspect of the struggles that LGBTQ plus characters can experience. I really need to reread this one because I loved it. It took me a very long time to read it because I'd literally just given birth. I don't know whether this one is dedicated to me. No, this one's literally dedicated to Sophia. This was the first book event I went to after I'd given birth to Sophia. So I got Karen Gregory to personalise a copy for me and a copy for Sophia so that she's got that for the future. So it did take me a very long time to get through it, and I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have. But I still gave it 5 stars. So I think if I read this not a month after I gave birth, it would probably be a 10-star book. And I also really loved I Hold Your Heart, which was Karen Gregory's most recent novel. She hasn't announced when she's releasing her 4th one, and it worries me because she was releasing like one a year, and now it's been 2 years since her last book came out. But I Hold Your Heart, again, very powerful, about an abusive relationship. So if you are a fan of Holly Bourne, who is not on this list because I've seen other booktubers talk about Holly Bourne, she's very well known, and she is beginning to publish some of her books in the US as well. But if you're a fan of Holly Bourne, just pick up Karen Gregory's novels and you will not regret it, and you'll probably cry your eyes out on the bus, just like I did. The next author I'd like to recommend is Lisa Heathfield. I have only read one of Lisa's novels so far. She has got 4 out now, I think. And I've only read Paper Butterflies, but this was another one that made me cry. Outside a train station. In fact, just about to get my train, I'm like, let me just finish my book before I get on the train, because I don't want to cry on the train, because I knew I was going to cry. But this is about a girl whose stepmother is abusing her. She is very young. We follow her throughout her life as she is abused in her younger years, and then as she becomes older, how it ends up wrapping up. And it's so sad. It's very realistic, it's very hard hitting. It doesn't give you a soft ending, it doesn't smooth things over and make everything okay. It shows a very dark side of the way that child abuse can impact people as they get older. It's one that I do need to reread. I think I need to be in the right mindset to reread it, and I do need to read Seed as well, because Seed is about a girl who is in a religious organisation. It sounds like it might be a cult book, and I like cult books, but they never actually impress me that much. But I think that one written by Lisa Heathfield might. The next author I'd like to recommend is Jenny Downham. You might have heard of Before I Die, because Jenny Downham's first novel was actually adapted to a film. That doesn't happen often with UKYA authors and novels, so that's really something to celebrate in itself. But the rest of Jenny Downham's books don't seem to have been hyped as much, because she does have quite a few years gap in between each of her books. So I think Unbecoming came out in 2016, I want to say, and then Furious Thing was 2019. So it takes her a few years to write each book, but it is worth the wait. She's got 4 books. I've read all of them. I'm not somebody who is great at keeping up with new releases, but anytime a Jenny Downham book comes out, I'm straight on it. This is a kind of Romeo and Juliet-esque love story about a girl whose brother is accused of raping a boy's sister, and the relationship that they make despite this barrier that they've had to overcome. Before I Die is about a girl who is sadly dying, and it's a list of things that she wants to do before she passes away. Unbecoming is like a multi-generational story about a girl whose grandmother has dementia. I think we're going to get to another one of those in just a moment. It's very similar to the author's book that I'm about to mention, which I can't quite remember. And also Furious Thing, which was shortlisted for the YA Book Prize. That one is about a girl who has anger issues and the way that she comes to terms with her own personality, and the fact that, like, being a furious thing is not necessarily the worst. They're, again, very different, an author who is also writing a wide range of topics, all very issue-based, so if you do like hard-hitting YA contemporaries, another author that would be perfect for you. Claire Furness. Similar to Jenny Downham in How Not to Disappear, this is a girl who is experiencing a teenage pregnancy, and she's also getting in touch with her great aunt. I think it is grandmother in Unbecoming, and it's a great aunt in How Not to Disappear. But her great aunt comes back into her life very unexpectedly, and she is suffering with dementia. And it's a dual timeline story, so you jump back in time, I think. Okay, I can't see any of the chapters when you do. I'm pretty sure you do. Yes. So you jump back in time to Gloria's story, and you get to see why she is separated from her family. But you also are exploring Hattie's story at the same time. It's a very powerful book. If you liked Juno Dawson's Margot and Me, then this will be one that you will love, because it's quite similar. Another one that made me cry. I don't cry often at books, but most of the books on this list have made me cry, and I think that's why they're favourite authors for me, because they do have a very powerful emotional impact on me. I do need to read The Year with the Rat by Claire Furness, because I haven't read her debut novel yet. And I haven't actually seen her publish anything since this, and this was 2016. So I'm guessing I probably missed a more recent release from her, and I'm going to have to look that up. This is the problem with them not being hyped on Booktube. I know all the releases from all the US authors, and the UK authors just slide under the radar, and that is not okay. Also, gorgeous cover. My edition's a bit bashed up on the spine, but, like, gorgeous cover. Talking of Juno Dawson, let's recommend Juno Dawson. Sean told me not to put Juno on this list because he said that she's a really well-loved author, but I haven't seen anybody talk about her explicitly on Booktube. People talk about Juno Dawson, but not on Booktube. So here it is. Here's me holding one of my favourite books of all time. Clean. A girl called Lexi is a rich socialite and she has to go to rehab because her brother's like, nope, you're going to end up killing yourself. You go into rehab. And it follows the story of all of these different teenagers who have all of these different troubles as they are in this rehab centre and they decide to kind of reinvent themselves. And it's so powerful. And there's a whole bit at the beginning when she's like swearing about all the seagulls and it's just wonderful. Oh, it's one of my favourite quotes ever. I'm not going to be able to find it at a quick glance, am I? I can smell the sea, briny depths and salt air and seaweed. Seagulls shriek like bastard demons. Shut up, you flying dickheads. It's just such a good quote and it really does introduce the voice of the character so well. But if you like YA that's a bit crasser, lots of swearing, no holds barred, Juno's more recent books will be perfect for you. Her earlier novels I haven't read. Some of them are horror. There's All of the Above, also an absolute favourite. I don't have a copy yet, but that's about a girl who is bisexual and coming to terms with her sexuality. Yeah, I recommend Juno Dawson. And I think she's going to get a lot more hype next year because she's coming out with her first adult fantasy novel. Her Majesty's Royal Coven, I think it's called. Or maybe that's the series name. I will link the Goodreads pages down in the description box. But yeah, I think that's going to get a lot more attention than a lot of her contemporary novels have, but they also deserve the love. The next author I'd like to recommend is Laura Stephen. Laura Stephen has written 3 books so far, and I've absolutely loved the first one. I still need to read A Girl Called Shameless, which is set just behind me. But this is about like the Me Too movement and just girls who are allowed to make their own decisions and take control of their own sexuality and the way that they get punished for that. So it's a very feminist book. It's a very interesting read if you are somebody who is interested in the kind of way that society is contradictory between their expectations of men and women. I loved it. It, again, made me cry. 5 stars, and I need to read her other books as soon as possible, but she is somebody I still haven't heard mentioned on Booktube, and she deserves more love. The next author I'd like to recommend is Eve Ainsworth. I'm not a huge fan of Eve's first 2 novels. This one is Crush and 7 Days is her first one because I feel like they're just a bit too short to really get into the characters. But this one is about an abusive relationship and 7 Days is about bullying. But for me, it was Tender and Damage. Those were the ones that really got me. Damage is about a girl who struggles with self-harm and Tender is a teen carer. And I've never seen another book about a teen carer, and it was very impactful. And it makes me want to read more of Eve Ainsworth's writing in the future. Eve Ainsworth is also a working class author, so she's very passionate about like working class people and the fact that they can be authors. Like, being an author does not have to be purely for the privileged upper classes who have the money to do it. And she's also very passionate about the fact that publishing needs to be more inclusive of people from diverse backgrounds, including like the working class background. So I recommend Eve Ainsworth as a person, even if I don't necessarily love her first 2 novels, but I really intensely recommend Tender. I'd also like to recommend Laura Wood. I haven't read Laura Wood's middle grade novels yet, and I haven't actually seen anybody talk about her middle grade novels on YouTube either, but her YA novels deserve more attention. If you like historical romances and kind of YA romances, these are perfect. So I've currently read A Sky Painted Gold and A Snowfall of Silver, which are both set in the 30s, I believe. Yeah, so 1931 for this one, and I think A Sky Painted Gold is a couple of years before. But they are just so luxurious and cozy and just beautiful. I love these stories, and I still need to read Under a Dancing Sky, which was her second YA novel. But if you are somebody who's a fan of, trying to think of like contemporary YA authors, because I don't really read, like, romance authors. I don't really read that many. I guess, like, Morgan Madsen and Casey West, I think you'd probably end up getting on with these because they are very swoony and so adorable and just such great characters in these. Such great characters. I'd also like to recommend Muhammad Khan. Muhammad Khan's short story Split being held up here, but I also really enjoyed I Am Thunder and Kick the Moon. Muhammad Khan is a teacher, so they have a lot of very modern teen slang in their novels, which makes it a bit inaccessible for somebody my age reading YA, but I think it'll appeal more to the target audience because it'll be a lot easier for them to relate to it because they will be able to see themselves in it because Muhammad Khan is around them in that school setting so frequently. Muhammad Khan's third novel keeps getting pushed back. It's called Mark My Words. It was my most anticipated release of last year, and then it got pushed back to February, and I still don't think it's actually out. Eventually you will hear me talk about that one, but until then I would highly recommend picking up I Am Thunder and Kick the Moon. They are standalones, you can read them independently, but the characters do cameo in each. The same with Split. This is like a companion novel to Kick the Moon. No, it's a companion novel to I Am Thunder, but it features someone from Kick the Moon as like a cameo. So the universe is very interconnected, and it will be interesting to see how that develops in the future because I'm hoping that Muhammad Khan will do more with these characters that we have grown to recognise. I'd also like to recommend Alyce for someone who writes very good kind of interconnected novels. I'm holding up Cane Warriors because it's the only Alyce book I actually own, but I'm specifically thinking of Alyce Cronkton Knights series, the Cronkton books. It's 4 companion novels and you don't get the same characters in each of them. I think you might get some cameos in the background. It's been a while since I've read them. It's been a few years. It was before Sophia was born. I still haven't read Homegirl. But you get the same setting. So it's like the setting becomes a character in itself, which is really clever. I just really love them. I want more people to talk about those. They're really cool. Like, Cronkton Knights is my favourite because it's like a really traditional fairy tale story, like a hero's quest of like, okay, we're gonna, like, there is something that we need to do and we're gonna travel to it and we're gonna resolve the fight and then it's gonna be like a happily ever after. But instead of like the knights going to kill the dragon, it's because their friend's boyfriend takes a naked picture of her on his phone and then they break up and he's like threatening to expose it to the world, so they have to like travel across Cronkton and into all of these like shady areas of London. I don't know if it's actually explicitly London, but you can tell it's London. And then they're like travelling across like, oh no, we're on like the wrong bus. This is the bus to like the Badlands. And then they get there and they have to like try and take him down and like get the phone off of him. And it's just really light-hearted. It's just such a funny twist on a really traditional trope. I also enjoyed Cane Warriors. This is historical fiction. I don't read historical fiction a lot, but I still enjoyed this one because it tells the story of Taki's War, which was 1760 in Jamaica, and it wasn't a historical event that I'd heard of before, so it has encouraged me to research more into that aspect of history. So yeah, if you like historical fiction or if you like contemporary companion novels, Alyce has something for everyone. Last but not least, I'd like to recommend Rebecca Barrow, who is the author of You Don't Know Me, But I Know You. This is an interesting one because Rebecca Barrow has been published in the US and not in the UK, but she is from the UK. And I'm not quite sure how that's happened, but I want a UK publisher to hurry up and pick these books up because her other novel, This Is What It Feels Like, is amazing. It's about 3 girls, they're in a band, the band breaks up, they grow apart and estranged, and they kind of repair their relationship and come back together. So you've got that dual timeline of back when they were in the band, seeing what went wrong, and then seeing them try to repair it now. And that one gripped me from beginning to end. And I also really loved You Don't Know Me, But I Know You, which is about a girl whose mother puts her up for adoption, and then when she is older, she actually has a teen pregnancy, and she has to decide what she wants to do with her baby. Her and her boyfriend have a lot of very open and honest conversations about it. There's lots of discussions about adoption, abortion, keeping the baby, and letting themselves be parents. And I just think it's brilliant because so many times when teen pregnancy is dealt with, there's not that conversation of like, okay, there's multiple ways that this could go, what should we do? It's a case of like either, oh, I'm going to get an abortion, or oh, I'm going to have a baby. It was just nice to see a couple sit down and be like, right, okay, what do we do here? Let's talk about all of our options. Very realistic, and it was something that I related to because Sean and I did a very similar thing. Like, we both wanted to have Sophia, but we were very sensible about it, and we did talk through all of the options first to be like, okay, is this definitely the right thing for us? Like, are we ready to be parents yet? Or should we do this, or should we do this? And I thought it was just great to see that represented, because if there are any people experiencing teen pregnancy, it will be really helpful for them to know that you can talk to a partner openly and honestly about those kinds of things. Especially, like, if you're already sexually active with them, you should be able to be emotionally active with them. And it was just great to see that on the page. And there you go. Those are 15 UKYA authors who deserve more love on Booktube. So if you already love any of these authors, please let me know down in the comments. If there's anybody you're expecting to see on this list that you haven't seen, please let me know, because if I haven't read any of their books yet, I can prioritise that and then do a part 2. And again, if you know any booktubers who read a lot of UKYA and often shout them out and love all of these authors as well, please link their channels down below, because I'd like to find more people to subscribe to who are also avidly interested in UKYA. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a like, and if you'd like to subscribe, we'd be super duper grateful. We post new videos every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, so we will be back in a couple of days with another one for you. Bye! I will link the descriptions down in the description